So I was looking at the stat, and in just 1 month of 2026, artificial intelligence bots visited websites over like 68 million times.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a staggering number.
Right. Human search is literally being outsourced to machines right now. So if you're building a business, your storefront isn't on a busy street anymore. It's locked inside a vault.
And only the robots hold the map.
Exactly.
We're seeing the final days of traditional search. I mean, the strategy used to be so simple, right? Cast the widest net possible, write 100 blog posts, and just capture whatever traffic trickles
Of
down.
course, pray for page one on Google.
Right. But we've rapidly entered the era of the agentic web.
Mhm.
AI isn't just generating text anymore. It's actually doing the shopping, evaluating options, and making the selections for us.
And if you are listening to this right now as someone who's constantly learning, building projects, and looking for practical edges in your business, you need to know how to navigate this vault.
You absolutely do.
So, our mission for this deep dive is highly specific. We are going to extract exactly how a small business can start building content to attract customers immediately in this new landscape.
Yeah, and we have a fantastic stack of April 2026 sources to pull from. We're looking at Bright Brief Research, Search Engine Journal, Marketing Brew, and Digiday.
It's a lot of ground to cover. We'll explore why having a massive following isn't actually the goal anymore, how to build web pages that act like precision traps, and this is a big one, the dangerous sameness trap you have to avoid with these AI tools.
But, to do that effectively, you have to start by looking at what you're actually putting out into the world before we even touch the technology.
Right, because optimizing for a bot is completely useless if your core business doesn't resonate with actual humans.
Exactly.
So let's look at a prime example of getting that foundation right. Shopify published a case study on April 21st covering a brand called Lone Fox.
Oh, Drew Scott's brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, founded by Drew Scott. And Bright Brief Research actually highlighted this as the standout playbook for small and medium-sized businesses right now. Lone Fox is in the DIY and home design space.
And what they did completely flips the traditional e-commerce script.
Totally. I mean, most businesses source a bunch of products, build a website, and then try to, hack the algorithm to find buyers.
But Lone Fox didn't do that at all. They built an audience first through content, and only after that did they figure out what to sell them.
Which is, wow, it's so smart.
It's the underlying psychology of it that makes it so resilient. They treated their content ecosystem as a high-fidelity listening device.
Oh, I like that phrase. A listening device.
Right. Because when you put out genuinely helpful material without immediately asking for a sale, your audience will naturally tell you exactly what they're willing to pay for.
They just hand you the blueprint. Lone Fox didn't guess. They rigorously tracked what their audience repeatedly asked about in the comments, the DMs, the engagement metrics.
And then they engineered products to meet that specific proven demand.
But, practically speaking, how does that evolution happen? Because they didn't start out with a perfect product line.
No, they didn't.
Initially, they were selling wholesale goods, stuff that was relatively easy to source, but crucially also very easy for competitors to copy.
Right. And that is where the feedback loop becomes critical. Because they had this direct daily dialogue with their audience, they realized people didn't just want generic home decor.
Not in a specific vibe.
Yes, highly specific aesthetics. They craved curated vintage pieces. So Lone Fox pivoted. They moved away from the easy-to-copy wholesale model and leaned heavily into sourcing hard-to-copy vintage items.
And Shopify reports that this specific pivot more than doubled their revenue. It even gave them the momentum to expand into physical retail.
Which is huge.
I definitely see the power in that transition, moving from a commodity to a scarcity model based entirely on comment section data. But wait, let me push back here for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
I hear DIY home design brand, and I immediately think, sure, that works for a highly visual influencer.
Right, the aesthetic advantage.
Yeah. But how does a local plumber or, I don't know, a niche B2B software consultant actually use this audience-first model? A plumber isn't going to pivot to selling vintage wrenches based on Instagram comments.
No, of course not. It's a fair pushback.
Mhm.
But the core mechanic translates perfectly because it's not about being an influencer in the lifestyle sense.
Okay, what is it about then?
It's entirely about utility. Think about that local plumber. Building an audience for them might mean publishing a hyper-local guide on what to do when your basement floods.
Oh, or making short videos on how to winterize pipes in their specific climate.
Exactly. And if they track the questions customers ask during emergency calls or look at local community forums, they might realize, Everyone is terrified of their water heater quietly failing.
Just randomly exploding and causing $20,000 in water damage?
Right, that specific fear. So instead of just advertising general plumbing, they shape their core offer around that exact anxiety.
Like a preventative annual water heater maintenance subscription.
You got it. They use the free content to build trust, and the engagement to find their hard-to-copy value. Anyone can snake a drain, but being the local authority who completely removes the anxiety of a flooded basement.
That builds a massive moat around your business.
Exactly.
Okay, so you turn customer anxiety into your product roadmap. But mapping out the perfect product creates a new problem.
It usually does.
Assuming you, the listener, have done this, you've built the trust, you know exactly what they want, and you have the offer. Where do you actually send them when they're ready to act?
Right.
Because if you send a highly specific buyer to a generic homepage that just says, "Welcome to our business," you immediately kill the momentum.
It is the single biggest leak in the bucket for small businesses. You do all this work to capture a specific intent, and then you drop them into a maze.
Yeah, go find it yourself.
Exactly. And this is where the April 20th analysis from Zero to Marketing is just a masterclass. They broke down the strategy of a company called Flint.
And the whole architecture is built around this concept of intent-matched landing pages. Walk me through how this actually functions. Because instead of that one-size-fits-all homepage, the Zero to Marketing framework suggests building just 10 highly targeted pages.
Just 10, yeah.
For their most valuable customer searches, like service near me, or competitor alternative, or best service for a specific customer type.
Think about the psychological state of the person typing those different phrases.
Yeah.
Let's take the competitor alternative search.
Okay.
A human being typing that into a search bar is already educated. They understand the market, they know the software, and they are actively frustrated with what they currently have.
They literally have a credit card in hand. They're ready to switch.
Exactly. So if you send them to a generic homepage that spends 3 paragraphs explaining the basic concept of your industry, you're treating an expert like a beginner. You'll lose them in 5 seconds.
It's like skipping the top of the sales funnel entirely and just putting your checkout register right next to their immediate problem.
Yes. A page like that shouldn't say welcome. It should say, here is exactly why we are faster, cheaper, or more reliable than the company you're currently annoyed with.
Address it head on.
Directly answer specific objections, provide immediate social proof, and offer one single, unavoidable call to action.
And conversely, someone searching for your service cost is in a totally different state.
Completely different. They aren't ready to switch yet. They're weighing budgets, trying to get internal approval.
So that page needs a totally different architecture. Transparent pricing tables, ROI calculators, case studies proving financial value.
Every single page must ruthlessly match the buyer's exact intent at the moment of the click.
I mean, I get the psychology, but let's be real here. Telling a small business owner who is already stretched thin to build and manage 10 different versions of their website, doesn't that sound like a recipe for immediate burnout?
Well, it sounds overwhelming until you look at how small businesses typically waste their time.
Which is how?
Most SMBs burn out trying to write 100 generic blog posts about industry trends, just hoping to catch some random, low-intent SEO traffic that might convert months down the line.
Oh, that's so true, the endless content treadmill.
Exactly. The intent match strategy is actually a massive efficiency play. By focusing all your energy on just the 10 highest value, highest intent specific searches, you're only speaking to people who are actively trying to buy.
You capture high converting traffic immediately.
Right.
But having those 10 perfect landing pages brings us to the reality of 2026. Because earlier, we established that a human being might never actually type those searches into a browser anymore.
And that changes everything.
Which brings us to the data from Search Engine Journal. They covered this research from Duda in February 2026. And the mechanics of getting found are completely unrecognizable now.
The scale of this shift is just staggering. Duda didn't just look at a handful of tech blogs. They analyzed over 858,000 websites across various industries.
And what they documented was almost 69 million visits from AI crawlers in a very tight window.
Yeah, 68.9 million.
Wait, almost 69 million visits just from AI bots trying to read and comprehend those sites?
Yes. They found that 59% of the sites in their massive data set got at least one visit from an AI crawler. But more importantly, the referral traffic coming directly from large language models surged by 72.7%.
Meaning human beings clicking links provided to them by ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, and Perplexity.
Exactly. It jumped from roughly 93,000 to over 161,000. visits.
So the old playbook of writing a 2,000-word blog post, stuffing it with keywords, and praying to rank on page 1 of Google, that is officially dead.
It's gone.
The humans are asking an AI assistant to find the competitor alternative, and the AI is going out, reading your website, summarizing it, and deciding if you are worthy of being recommended.
The AI acts as the ultimate gatekeeper now. It evaluates your site not on how clever your copywriting is, but on how efficiently it can extract factual, structured truth.
It feels like we spent the last 20 years building massive flashy billboards for humans driving down the highway, catchy slogans, bright colors.
Right.
Now, we have to write a highly detailed, perfectly formatted instruction manual for the self-driving car's internal computer instead.
That analogy captures the mechanical shift perfectly. The AI crawler doesn't care about the clever pun in your headline. It cares about crawlable depth, and crucially, it cares about structured data and schema markup.
Okay, for the listener who hasn't spent years in the back end of web development, break down what schema markup actually is. How does a bot read a site differently than a human?
Sure. Think of schema markup as invisible digital sticky notes attached to the underlying code of your website.
Sticky notes. Okay.
When a human looks at your page, they see the text open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and their brain instantly understands those are your business hours.
Naturally.
But when an AI crawler looks at that same text without schema markup, it just sees a string of numbers and letters. It has to guess the context.
Oh, I see.
But if you use schema markup, you're essentially attaching a hidden sticky note to that text that explicitly tells the bot this specific data point is the operating hours of a verified local business. You completely remove the guesswork.
So when a user asks Copilot, find me a local plumber open right now who can fix a water heater, Copilot doesn't want to guess.
No, it wants mathematical certainty.
Right. It looks at the competitors, finds the one with the digital sticky note explicitly confirming 24/7 emergency hours and water heater repair services, and it recommends them.
Exactly. The sources make it clear. AI systems disproportionately reward websites that provide complete schema markup, highly detailed FAQ sections, clear location data, and machine-readable proof of credibility, like structured reviews.
You have to feed the machine the exact parameters it needs to categorize you.
You do.
And while that sounds highly technical, there is actually a doubly optimistic angle here for the listener.
There really is.
If you're running a smaller operation, you can actually outmaneuver the massive corporate giants in this specific arena.
Because agility is your biggest asset here. A massive national brand has layers of legal approvals, brand compliance officers, decades of legacy tech debt.
Right. Updating their core site structure takes like 6 months of committee meetings.
Exactly. But an SMB owner, they can log into their backend this afternoon, update their local schema data, flesh out an incredibly detailed FAQ section based on the exact objections they hear on sales calls.
And instantly make themselves the easiest, most logical answer for an AI bot to recommend.
You don't need $1 million ad budget anymore. You just have to be better organized for the machines.
Which brings us to the final and frankly most dangerous piece of this landscape.
Yeah, the agentic web.
Right. We've established that AI is crawling websites to pull information, but it's taking it a step further. AI isn't just reading the web anymore. It's actively generating the advertising and managing the creative.
Which introduces a terrifying loss of control for the business owner.
The automation is moving from the back end to the front line. Microsoft just launched AI Max for search campaigns.
And to understand the mechanics of this, you have to realize that your ads are no longer just competing for a human's attention on a traditional search results page.
Right, they're competing for the bots.
Yes. In the agentic web, your ads are actively competing to be selected, cited, or even seamlessly transacted through by AI assistants. The bot is acting as an autonomous agent on behalf of the consumer.
Evaluating your ad bids and creative in real time, but letting a machine completely manage how your brand is presented to the world is creating absolute chaos.
It really is.
Marketing Brew recently reported on the fallout from Meta's AI ad tools, and it is a brand control nightmare. Meta's automation is actively making unwanted and sometimes entirely distorted tweets to creative assets.
The snag tight situation.
Yes, snag tights. They literally had to petition Meta to disable their AI testing features because the modified creative was completely misrepresenting their products.
It perfectly illustrates the danger of misaligned incentives. An AI ad tool's primary objective function is just to maximize the click-through rate.
That's all it cares about.
Right. The machine might analyze millions of data points and realize that images with neon tinting get 4% more clicks. So it artificially alters the color of the tights in the ad.
But for an apparel brand, that is disastrous. You are now selling a product that doesn't actually exist.
Exactly. The customer buys it, receives the wrong color, and demands a refund. The AI optimized the click, but it destroyed the business's unit economics and customer trust.
It fundamentally hallucinated the brand identity. And it's not just visual distortion. Digiday reported on what they're calling the sameness trap.
Oh, this is everywhere right now.
Because every single agency, every freelancer, and every one of your competitors is now using generative AI to write their marketing copy. And they're all feeding the models the exact same predictable prompts.
Write an exciting email about our new B2B software,
Exactly.
and the output is completely homogenized. Generative AI works by predicting the most statistically probable next word. So if you ask it for marketing copy, it will give you the most average, mathematically predictable marketing copy possible.
It just strips away all differentiation, all edge, all personality.
The internet is rapidly filling up with flat, identical ideas that sound like they were written by the exact same overly enthusiastic robot.
So we have arrived at a massive paradox. We are sitting here telling the listener to rigorously organize all their website code and data so AI robots can read it easily.
Right.
But in the exact same breath, we are warning them not to let AI write their marketing or touch their creative. How does a business owner actually balance this without losing their mind? Where is the line?
Well, the line is actually very clear once you understand the underlying mechanisms. You must optimize the structure for the machines, but you must optimize the soul for the humans.
Structure for the machines, soul for the humans. Break down how that works in practice.
Think back to Lone Fox at the very beginning of our deep dive. Their entire success was built on a hard-to-copy, intimate understanding of their specific audience's desire for curated vintage items.
Right.
If Lone Fox had relied on Meta's AI tools to auto-generate their vintage aesthetic, or used ChatGPT to write generic blurbs about home decor, they would have lost the exact nuance that their community craved.
It would have just sounded like everyone else.
Exactly. The solution for small businesses isn't to reject AI entirely. You should absolutely use it to speed up the draft process, format your schema markup, and analyze large data sets. But you must feed the machine your unique, real-world inputs.
Meaning you don't just typewrite a sales page. You feed the AI the raw transcripts of your actual customer onboarding calls.
Yes.
You feed it the specific word-for-word objections your clients give you when they cancel. You feed it your own hard-earned owner expertise and the hyper-local context of your city.
Exactly. You treat the AI as a synthesizer of your unique reality, not as a replacement for your point of view.
That's a great distinction.
If you anchor the AI in your proprietary real-world data, the output will actually sound like your distinct business. It will speak directly to the anxieties of your customers, completely bypassing that generic sameness trap.
So let's synthesize all of this into a rapid-fire, actionable blueprint for the listener who wants to attract customers immediately this week.
Let's do it.
Step 1, do not guess what the market wants. Build audience trust first by publishing wildly useful content and use the engagement on that content as a high-fidelity listening device to find your hard-to-copy value.
Step 2, when you capture that demand, do not send it into the void of a generic homepage. Build intent-matched landing pages targeting your 10 most valuable specific searches. Address their exact psychological state the moment they click.
Step 3, translate your website into the instruction manual for the self-driving car. Get your schema markup, your local data, and your FAQs perfectly structured with those digital sticky notes so the 68 million AI crawlers out there can understand you with mathematical certainty.
And step 4, guard your authenticity fiercely. Use AI to structure your data and accelerate your workflows, but never let it auto-generate your core identity. Feed the machines your unique human inputs to avoid the sameness trap.
As you approach your own projects, your team meetings, or your business ventures this week, remember the most empowering takeaway from all this research. You do not need to outspend the corporate giants to win in the agentic web.
You really don't.
You just need to be more authentic in your message and far better organized in your data.
It's a phenomenal equalizer. The businesses that master both the human psychology and the machine architecture will be the ones that thrive.
But I want to leave you with one final, slightly mind-bending thought to mull over as you go about your day. We talked about how the neon storefront on Main Street has been replaced by a hidden vault.
Right.
If AI bots are rapidly becoming the primary entities that search, evaluate, summarize, and even execute purchases entirely on behalf of consumers, are we approaching a future where the most profitable, highly optimized marketing content in the world is completely invisible to the human eye, designed entirely in code for machines to persuade other machines?